So we're back to Kat. She's filled in most of her. Look at that fantastic sky. Isn't that fantastic? Look at that variance of white and blue, darker blue, medium blue, white. Just fantastic. What are you working with now, Kat?
So I'm doing the trees. This is a raw umber, which is an opaque colour. However, because the black is so strong, and no acrylic paints really are truly entirely opaque, it just means that the raw umber goes on nice and dark. But as soon as I add white, and this is yellow, this is a yellow ochre, it's actually oxide yellow, then obviously it's going to make the colour very, very pale, but it does make it a little bit more opaque. So the black doesn't really have an awful lot of effect on it. But what I want is the raw umbers to look really dark. So I put those on first, then I'm working the lighter two colours, the white and the yellow oxide in next.
Yeah, looks gorgeous. Look at this. That's a great colour you're using. Is that what, the yellow oxide?
So this is the yellow oxide, yeah, which I prefer to yellow ochre. It's a little bit more, it's very similar, but it's not quite as flat and matte. Yeah. There's something lovely about the oxides.
It looks fantastic. Look at the effect of that. That's gorgeous. It looks sort of pinky in places.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, so that's the combination of the yellow oxide and the raw sienna.
Raw umber.
Raw umber. Raw umber, sorry, raw umber.
Now, the raw umber is going milky because, and not like it was over here, because I've still got some white on my paintbrush. So I want to control that when that happens. So I need to wash my brush and then take off any of the excess water.
So this is all about being aware of what's on your brush. If you just are too casual and you're not determined about what's on your brush, all these little accidents will happen that you may or may not want. But the most important thing is to make the decision about whether you want them or not. I appreciate as a beginner you're still exploring, but it's so important to know what's on your brush. Because as Kat said, it was going milky because she had white on that brush on top of the raw umber, so it had gone milky, which she knows she didn't want. Because it's being aware of what happens all the time, not just in little areas, but all the time, being really acute as to how the colours interacting with what you've got on the brush.
So now I'm sort of adding some highlights into that lovely tacky paint. And because, I do a combination of mixing on the canvas and mixing on the palette, but I'm mixing the colour I want first on the palette because it's really just going to be a small brief mark, so I need to be able to predict what that colour is going to be. And I'm building slowly up to the lightest lights. And again, then I need to step back because they're heavy contrasts, and I want to decide whether I want those heavy contrasts up there.
Wow.
And I do, and I want to bring in some other heavy contrasts in other areas.
Isn't that great? You know, this is the interesting, clever, difficult thing about, obviously, when you're painting a painting, you're really up close to it. And when you stand back, as we are now with the video camera, it looks completely different. This is why it's so important to keep standing back, because close up, unless you are very experienced, you don't actually understand how it's going to look from afar. So it's really important to keep standing back to it, because we've got that just amazing, fantastic tonality, exactly the right size of mark, the right tone of mark. And then, of course, when we go in, we move in, it looks slightly odd, maybe. It looks too exaggerated. But, of course, in the distance, there's the genius. And this is what happens with David Hockney and Picasso. Look at them in detail. They are incredibly weird. You haven't got a clue what you're looking at. But of course, from a distance, they're genius. And this is how a great artist works. And really, this is what Kat's doing. Doing something that I kind of say to me, oh, no, that's too strong. But stand back, and it's genius. And that's what happens. To a certain extent, that's talent, and you can't really teach talent. We can teach you skills, but we can't teach you talent. But it's being aware of how to make these paintings great by possibly exaggerating, but always standing